Hi everyone, this is Tom Ray again with the Center of Academic Enrichment and Outreach, and we are here today to go over your middle and high school transcript. The transcript can look like a daunting task to understand, but it's actually not too hard, and within the next few minutes, you're going to be able to understand your transcript, know what bonus points are, and understand how this helps you get into the college of your choice. So let's begin. If you can look at your screen right now, we have a transcript from an unknown student from a make-believe school, and that's just to keep the information private. But we're going to use this real example of a transcript and go over each of the sections so that you can fully understand what they mean. In the top left-hand corner, we can see a section called GPA Summary. What is GPA? GPA stands for grade point average. That means when you complete a class, you're assigned a letter grade. You're assigned A, B, C, D, or F. Well, these letter grades actually translates to points. So an A would be a 4.0, a B would be a 3.0, a C a 2.0, a D a 1.0, and finally an F would be 0. You would not earn any points for that. Now, when you get into college, these grades actually change slightly, meaning that you can get A minuses or B pluses, and they don't fall strictly on the 4 or the 3 or the 2. It might be a 3.5, it might be a 3.25. So that's the one difference from middle and high school to college. Now, one thing that we want to look at is we have an unweighted GPA and a weighted GPA. An unweighted GPA is basically whatever grade that you got in the class is your grade. So for example, again, if you got a B, you would have a 3.0 for that class. But for weighted GPA, that's actually extra bonus points for students who take more challenging classes. For example, in high school, if you take honors classes, so if you take like Algebra 2 honors or English 1 honors, if you take these honor classes, they will give you an extra 0.025 GPA bonus points. What that means is, now you have to pass the class. So if you got an F in the class and got a 0, then you would not get any bonus points. But if you got a D in the class or a C, your 1.0 GPA for the D would become a 1.025. The 0.025 for the honors just gets added to it. Now, for some of you who want to challenge yourself more and you're taking AP classes, or you're part of the IB International Baccalaureate program, and AP stands for Advanced Placement, those classes actually give you double bonus points, meaning that if you get like say a B in that class, which is a 3.0, it would be a 3.05. So instead of adding 0.025 points, they add 0.05 points instead. So that's what the weighted and unweighted means. The weighted, it puts in all of those honor classes, it puts in all of those extra AP or IB classes. It gives you a higher GPA compared to the unweighted GPA. As of 2021, Clark County School District has removed the cap for GPA, meaning now if you took a ton of AP classes, IB classes, honor classes, there's no ceiling to how high your GPA can go. So if we look under weighted GPA, we also see a class rank section. This basically ranks you among your classmates, and the higher the GPA that you have, the lower your class rank will be. Meaning that if you are rank 1 in the school, you might have a 5.0 GPA or something like that. So as your GPA goes down, your class rank will start dropping. And then under that, you'll see an accumulated bonus points. And if you take that accumulated bonus points and add it to your unweighted GPA, you should get your weighted GPA. Finally, we have something called a NSHE Core GPA. This is the Nevada State of Higher Education, what they deem as core to you completing high school, meaning that if you are taking those classes that everyone needs, like English, math, social studies, science, if you are taking these classes that are the main bulk of your high school career, that's what colleges will use to assess, is this student college ready? Because if they look at your core GPA, they know that these are the subjects that are truly the hardest and the most challenging in high school. And if that GPA is a lot lower than your weighted or unweighted, they might make a decision, or they might think that you just took a lot of elective classes or other classes to boost your GPA, but in terms of core subjects and the more challenging subjects, you actually didn't do too well in your classes. So that's what the NSHE Core GPA is. Under this, we have assessment information. So this goes over college and career readiness, whether or not you took the ACT. So if there's no requirement met, then that means the student hasn't taken it yet. And this is very important because you need to take this test in order to graduate. Due to the situation with the pandemic of COVID-19, this may have been waived for previous classes. That doesn't mean that in the future this requirement will be waived. Under this, we have attendance summary, and this basically, during all of the different school years, it tracks how many days you were absent out of the total days that were enrolled and how many days you were tardy as a student. And then, so this is if you took any honors classes or any high school credit classes in advance. So sometimes in middle school you're offered Algebra 1 honors, or you're offered like computer literacy. Those classes can give you high school credit, and we'll go over the credit portion as well as the GPA portion a little bit more in depth later. But this just shows that this student actually took some middle school courses that were worth high school credit, and they were able to get that on their high school transcript. So if we scroll down some more now, we can see this person having these different terms on their transcript. So your GPA is basically broken into 2 semesters, and each semester has 2 quarters, but the quarters themselves are not recorded onto the transcript. Only the semester is. And generally a semester may be weighted as, it depends on your teacher, so they might give it different weight, but typically it's something like 45% is your quarter 1 grade, 45% is your quarter 2 grade, and 10% is your semester exam. So again, these numbers tend to change year to year, so you want to talk to your high school counselor to determine what the new numbers are for the school year that you're in. So what does this mean? Basically, if you get a F in one quarter, like say quarter 1, and then you decide to try your hardest in quarter 2 and get 100%, or like a straight A's, you didn't miss an assignment, you turned in everything, you got 100 on everything. Well, since both quarters are weighted equally, your highest grade that you can actually get might be a C now, because the F is a 50% and the A is 100%, and you divide those by 2, you get 150 points, divide by 2, that's a 75%, right? And let's say you got 100 on your final exam as well, or your semester exam. And even with that 100%, if that 100% is only 10% of your grade, then the maximum score that can add to you would be additional 10%. So the math is a little complicated, but I'll give you a basic breakdown on how to do math to calculate your GPA for the whole year, or for the whole semester, I'm sorry. And the way to do that is basically you take whatever weighted GPA of the quarter is based on your counselor, and you multiply that by your percentage grade. So for example, let's say you got like a 90% in your class in quarter 1, and you multiplied that by, let's say it's weighted at 45% of the grade for quarter 1. You take 90% and you multiply that by 0.45. And when you multiply that, you're gonna get a number like 40.5. So your 90% that you got in a quarter 1 will now become only weighted at 40.5%. And let's say, you got another 90% in quarter 2, which will be another 90% times 0.45, which you get another 40.5%. And if you were to add those two together, you would get 81% total. Now, why would you get an 81% when both quarters you got a 90% for your grade? You got an A, right? Why is your grade now only an 81%? Well, that's because we're missing the final exam, or the semester exam. And if the semester exam is worth 10% of your grade, and let's say you got 100% on the semester exam, you would take 100% times 10%, which is 0.10, and you would get 10%, and you would add that to the 81% that you have, and your final grade would be a 91% in the class. So basically, that's how you kind of calculate your grade for one class. You basically see what you get in one quarter, and then you would multiply that by how much it's weighted, and then that way you can project, you can use some division to basically calculate what your new grade will be for the next quarter and what you need to get on your final exam to get your grade that you want to get. Now this is very technical, so if you want to do it easily, you can search on Google for a GPA calculator, or what kind of grade I need to get calculator, or you can even speak to your counselor and they'll work with you through it to calculate your grades. But I feel like we needed to understand that part, so that way the rest of this presentation will make sense. The next thing that we'll go into is high school credits. So typically every class that you take has a assortment of credits that you need to get. So for example, if you take, every class is actually worth 1 credit, but every semester it's worth half a credit. Remember, your transcript is measured in semester basis. So if you are taking English 9 and you get anything above a D, you automatically get half a credit for that class because you passed. Now you also have to pass the next semester, which again includes your quarter 1, quarter 2, or quarter 3 and quarter 4, plus your semester grade for the test. If all of that averages above a D, then again you'll get the 0.5 credit. Every student in Clark County needs a certain amount of credits to graduate. According to the CCSD website, every student must earn 22.5 credits to graduate. They need to earn 4 credits in English, 3 credits in math, 2 in science, 1 in U.S. history, 1 in U.S. government, 2 for physical education, 1 in world history or geography, half a credit in health education, half a credit in computers, and 7.5 credits in electives. This number again may have been changed due to the COVID pandemic and also may be updated, so please talk to your counselors if you do not know whether or not you have enough credits to graduate. Sometimes when students cannot graduate, credit retrieval classes are offered, and students are able to take these classes either over summer, online, or after school in order to make up their credits. So if we look at the student again on this transcript, we'll see again they have term 2 and term 4. So again, your transcript is broken down into 2 semesters. So term 2 is 1 semester where they earn that credit, and term 4 is the 2nd semester where they earn their credit for the other half of the year. The thing is, if you do bad in your first quarter and you do well in your second quarter for semester 1, all the college recruiters and everyone that sees your transcript will see is that they'll see the final grade. They'll see the quarter 1 and 2 or 3 and 4, and they'll see the exam that you took for semester 1 or 2, all averaged in together. They won't even see your exam grade. All they will see is those 3 scores averaged together to basically determine what grade you got in that class. It's better to get a B in the first quarter and a C in the second quarter instead of getting an F in the first quarter and having to get 100% in your second quarter, because that's almost impossible. So every little effort that you put in to boost your grade in any moment is very important. It's always better to do it early than to try and catch up later. So as we can see from this transcript, this student really liked to challenge themselves. They took a lot of different honor classes. You can tell if the honor classes has an H next to the class, or the MYP, which means this student was on track for the International Baccalaureate program. Lastly, we're going to talk about how to calculate your GPA in general on your transcript, or how it's done. So basically what the transcript does is it takes all of these letter grades that you see, it converts it into numbers. So a C is a C is a 2.0, a D is a 1.0, a B is a 3.0, A is 4.0. So they take all those letters, they turn it into numbers, and then they add them all together, and they divide by the total number of classes that you took. So for example, if you took 2 math classes and you got a 4.0 in both classes, and you took 2 English classes and you got a 3.0 in both English classes, so two A's and 2 B's, then you would take 3 plus 3, which is 6, plus 4, which is 10 for the math class, plus 4 for the other math class, which is 14. Then you would take that and you would divide by 4, because there's 4 total semesters or classes that you took. Now, when I said classes, I actually meant that these were half semesters. So you took 2 semesters of math and 2 semesters of English. When you take that and you divide it, you'll get 14 divided by 4, which will give you a 3.5. So your GPA would be a 3.5 from those 4 classes. And that's how your transcript calculates your GPA. I know all of this can be very complicated and tedious to think about. So if you feel overwhelmed, or you feel like this is not something that I can do easily, again, you can find a GPA calculator online if you search on Google, or just schedule an appointment with your high school counselor or center staff at your high school, and we will be more than happy to help you break down your transcript and your GPA. Also, you might want to talk to your counselors doing credit checks which happens typically at the beginning of the year, or for the freshmen, it's actually in the spring semester since they didn't have a GPA in the beginning of the year. And they can plan out classes, talk about their degree path that they're trying to hit, whether they want to get an honors diploma or not. These are typical questions that are asked during these meetings, one-on-ones with your high school counselor. So please take advantage of that so that you may be able to graduate on time and get into the college of your choice. Thank you so much, and I hope you all have a great day today.